and she in 2016 won the ACE Professional Award, which is the highest honor we bestow. And I can see from the number of participants that there's a lot of interest. This is the first of 3 scheduled Media Relations and Writing LC webinars this year. We have another one scheduled on writing next month with a CNA judge. So get your tips on how to win. And in January, we are planning a connecting with minority media panel, which we hope to have a Latino, Black, and Native American all participating in. So with that, I am going to hand it over to Faith, and you can put your questions in chat or wait till the end, and she will take questions. Here we go.
Hey, thank you, Chris. Chris, I'm going to ask you if you will help me keep time. I would like to leave at least half the time for people to be able to ask questions. Right. So thanks for joining us today. I am joining you from Keeneland Racetrack, where I'm on vacation today. So thanks for showing up. I wanted to talk to you a little bit about some changes and things that are that we're doing different at USDA NIFA than you may have experienced in the past. We're trying to work as a better partner with the communicators at our land-grant universities to help tell the story of agriculture in a broader way. And we're also working very hard at cross-branding with the USDA and our partner institutions. So you will notice that when you are sharing things on social media, we are trying to reshare those just either with a comment from NIFA that we're proud to partner with you, or just as retweets and shares of your posts. Because what we want is for people to be able to make both a visual and a mental connection between institutions that they are loyal to and USDA, and help try to connect our support for your work and the work that you do at the universities. We've also tried to eliminate a lot of excessive reporting. So we're going to do away with the Share Your Science as a database, but we are certainly encouraging you to continue to share your science with us. We just want to make it easy and ask you to share that in whatever way is easiest for you. And so if you are posting things in the National Land Grant Impact Database, we are going there and searching for examples and stories that we use in talking points and news releases. We are also subscribing to as many of your newsletters as we can. So for those of you who do weekly news recaps or weekly news digests that you share with media and your stakeholders, please make sure that that I am subscribed to those. You can just send them directly to me, and we'll make sure that we're sharing the news that you're putting together there as broadly as we can. My email, Chris, if you want to put it in the chat box, is faith.peppers@usda.gov. And just make sure that you subscribe me to any sort of news products you have. So instead of having to then redistribute those in a different format to NIFA, we just want to use what you're already doing and try to make this easier for you and less work. For those of you who get grants from NIFA, you will notice that we've started a new practice of sending out NIFA grant award alerts to the communicators. One of the things I found when I came to USDA was that people assumed that because you were getting an award that your scientists were telling the communicators and working with the communicators to do a story. And we know that's not always the case. A lot of those grants will come in and you don't necessarily know about it. So what I've created is an easy, simple email alert that you will get usually on Wednesday morning that will tell you someone from your institution is getting a grant, just a little short couple of sentence synopsis of that grant program, and then a link that you can go to and find out who the PI is. You can get a summary of the grant, but you can also see the full grant information. So our hope is that that's given you a big head start to being able to get stories put together and distributed about grants coming to your universities. So one thing I want to show you, Chris, if you can share the NIFA homepage, I'm finding that there are all kind of valuable tools on the NIFA website that land grant communicators may or may not know about. And one of them is the data gateway. If you can click on that up in the top right. So this is where you can find out lots of comprehensive information about what is being funded in your state. So if you will scroll down a little bit there, Chris. And so often if you see congressional districts, often we are asked to provide information for a congressman about what is being funded by USDA or by NIFA in their district. If you click on that map, Chris. You will find that this is an interactive map. And if you click on, why don't you go ahead and click on Florida? And you will see it tells you the totals of grant funds that come in, what projects were funded. One of the things that you will find is a problem with this, if your university has a foundation that collects all of the funds for your state, you will find that most of the grant funds are going to whatever district your university is based in. And so that can be a little bit of a problem in sorting it out when you're sorting by congressional district. But click on the dark green one there. Yeah. So this will show you kind of what that list looks like. And you can get an idea. So anything that's Smith Lever is cooperative extension funding. Anything that's Hatch is agricultural experiment station funding. AFRI is our competitive grant funds. And so it'll show you how it breaks out and what kinds of grants you're getting. So this is a great little comprehensive view that we often need, but rarely are aware is available to us right here on this website. I wish I could get back all the time I spent with a calculator and a legal pad trying to figure this out for various Congress members, and I had no idea it was right here on this website. So one of the things I encourage you to do is take a tour around the NIFA website, click on some of these tools and figure out what information is there. And feel free to shoot me a note and let me know what we could do to better publicize the data that's available and to help you use it. So Chris, if you go back to the homepage again.
Finishing to be off of workout, so obviously she's going to get something out of this race here this afternoon. They also said they don't really like to crank them up the first time out, so that's good information. She may not.
Yeah, just click on the home. Yeah.
She looks well out there.
So some of you are familiar with NIFA impacts. That's where you used to have to send in a separate impact story with a photo, and it required all kind of documentation. And so what we're doing now, instead of asking you to do all that legwork, is we're doing that legwork for you using your impact database, a land grant impact database, or stories that you are sending to us that demonstrate what you're doing with the grant funding that you've received. And so we are harvesting these mostly off of your websites or out of the National Impact Database, as opposed to asking you to send it to us separately. If there is a project that you particularly want to have highlighted that shows strong impact and good use of these federal grant funds, then please, by all means, go ahead and send us a link to that story so we're sure we see it. And also give us a photo that can go with it. And we are happy to put you in the rotation for those. The other tool that we're trying to use a lot, we're having to, when NIFA moved from DC to Kansas City, only one communicator moved with the unit. So we're rebuilding the unit. Right now we're up to 3 whole people. And so we are slowly bringing things back. We're focusing right now mostly on Twitter and LinkedIn. LinkedIn because we're trying to do a lot of hiring. We're hiring at a rate of about 5 people per pay period. And we are trying to push out our impact story. So that's why we chose those 2 platforms to bring back first, but we will start rolling out our other social media channels, and we will be always using hashtag NIFA impacts and trying to tag your institution. So if you will also use hashtag NIFA impacts on stories that you do using that highlight good use of NIFA funds or impact from NIFA funding, then we can find those and be able to help you share those on social media without any further action needed on your part. And so we are trying to, as we see things, make sure that if it's a story, especially coming out from USDA, that your university is tagged in it too, so that you can find it and also share it. So with that, I'm going to stop talking and let you ask questions. Chris, I see some things popping up in the chat box. Can you tell me what some of those questions are? You're muted, Chris.
Yeah, yeah, we have several things here. And one's asking for a link to the interactive map and paste that in. Someone has asked, is there a way to request to be added to the grant alert system?
Yes. So if you are the person who should be getting that email, it's real complicated to get added to the list. What you have to do is send me your name, your email address, your institution, and your job title to my email, and I will add you to the list.
For Suzanne, recent starting gate for Keeneland's 5th race, start of the Big 6.
You're muted again, Chris.
Pam posted the link to the app. So that is in the chat box now.
Yeah, so all you have to do to find those is just go to the data gateway in the right upper hand corner of the NIFA homepage. I encourage you to go to the data gateway. That's just one of the tools in there. There are several tools, and click around and make sure that you are aware of all the different data points that you can get about grant funding to your institution in that one website instead of having to dig around and find it.
Faith, so someone's just sent a question. Ruth has sent a question about whether you will be doing another annual report this year, and if so, what might be the deadline?
We're not sure that we'll get an annual report done this year just because we don't have the capacity to do one right now. We are looking at what the different forms may be that we could actually pull a year-end report together. So I may be in contact with some of you to send me information, but we should be able to find everything that we need for that, either from our own website or from your website. So hopefully it won't require any further action on your part.
Shades of Truth has the lead by a neck. Belle Day goes second up on the outside. And then Sister Annie, who's toward the
Sorry.
Wow, we're off to the races.
The race just started.
So I had a question going back to the map. I see the list has these grant numbers or something, or these long string of numbers and letters. Are those hyperlinks where you can actually see what the grant is, or how do you dive deeper to see what the grant is?
So there are some places that you can, there's a whole separate database. None of this is really well organized. So I'm hoping that I'm going to be able to fix that.
Good with numbers.
But you can plug that number into the CRIS system. So you should see another link at the top that says tools. And in tools, you'll find the CRIS database. Those numbers you can put into CRIS and it will give you the same descriptive page that I send you in the grant alert email. So if you click on CRIS, and then, so this is where all of your grantees have to put in their final reports on their grants. And so it starts as soon as they get a grant and it tracks the grant all the way to completion. And so when you go in, you put those, they're called ascension numbers, and you can just plug it in and it will give you all the details of that grant, including the impact reports from that grant and impact updates as they, so if it's a 5-year program, it will have like an annual update of where they are in it. But when I send you the grant alert email, it will have a link that will show you the PI, and then it will be a brief, which is a summary of the grant, or it will say full, and you can click on full and it will give you the full details of that grant. And all of that information is always available in CRIS. So when I send those alerts and you get the sheet, that is generated by CRIS. So that's CRIS is where all that information is held. So Chris Moran, you should be able to remember that one.
Yeah, it's not me, it's CRIS. So there's another question. Do you want only impact information on NIFA grant sponsored programs, or are you into other stories?
Anything that's funded from NIFA. So that would include your hatch, Smith Lever. So that would include extension, experiment stations, forestry, some of your vet programs. So anything that's funded through NIFA, we're happy to see it and be able to use it in any way we can.
And how about, is there a story length that you prefer or any style guidelines you'd like to share?
The only style guideline is that we ask you to cite USDA, National Institute of Food and Agriculture, on the first reference as the funding source, and then you can just refer to us as NIFA thereafter. But that it really helps us be able to find the stories, because that's what we're looking for in our tracking system.
Great, thanks. And how about,
Circle for Keeneland's 5th grade.
should we be bothering to put projects in the land grant impact that are not NIFA funded?
Yes. So here's the reason why, and we've been having these conversations about whether or not the land grant impact database is redundant, and it's not. Because you all have very important projects that need to go into that land grant impact database that are funded from sources outside of NIFA, whether it's NIH, NSF, your state government, your county government, that need to go in your database because they are a record of your work in that year. They just don't happen to involve NIFA. So the database is put together in a way that when I need things that are specifically NIFA funded, I can find those by searching under funding lines, whether it's AFRI or Hatch or Smith Lever or 1890s. I can go and find that information. But you need to put everything in that database that is going to highlight the work you do. And then, let us worry about how we can extract it back out. I just don't want you to have to double and triple report.
Pick 5 today, pays them 5 and consolation 4-5.
Do you also want video features already on YouTube, or primarily written pieces?
With a super high 5 jackpot.
Right now, we don't have any video capability in NIFA. So if you have videos that are already edited, posted to YouTube, and you are amenable to us being able to use those to highlight grants, that would be great. Please make sure you just send us a link to it so we're aware of it.
5.5 furlongs.
Thanks for that question, Lyndall Stout. And this one's from Brian Meyer. Can you talk about how NIFA and partner communication impacts database may or dovetail with APLU advocacy, marketing efforts?
Also the 11th Film High.
Sure. So I think the National Land Grant Impact Database is the one commonality between all of those efforts. So if that's where I'm going for my support data, and that's where APLU communication efforts are going for their data, then we're all coming out with the same data pool. So I really see that National Impact Database as the foundation that the communication efforts, whether it's NIFA or APLU, springboard from that foundation. And, you know, it's that the efforts of both are only going to be as strong as the foundation. So it's very important that you put your best work in there, that it's well written, that it's well edited, and very easy for us to use.
Please note, number 14, quick-witted, draws into the race. 10th and final.
I have a question, Faith. Are there, you said you're hiring a lot of people. Are any of them entry level? Like, should we be sharing this with students at our school, or are you looking for more senior level communicators?
So most of the hiring that's going on right now is the science level. A lot of them are PhD level. So if you've got some new PhDs graduating, there's a lot of opportunity there. There's also a lot of program specialists and accounting types. So be on the lookout for those. For communication, because we're rebuilding the entire unit, it really runs the gamut. I'll be hiring 2 more manager level positions, 4 specialist level positions. And then I am holding my entry level positions until we get the upper structure in place before we bring in young entry level workers that we have to mentor and train. I want to make sure we're ready for that when we get there, but I will be looking at pathway interns. So if you're not familiar with the pathway internship program, you can find it on just by searching for pathway interns in USDA. It's a program that hires interns from their senior year in college through 2 years post-graduation. And that's for both undergraduates and graduate students. So it's a great opportunity. You come, you work a paid internship for USDA. If you are a high performer and there is a position open for you, you can be moved into a position without going through the whole interview and hiring process. So that's another reason I'm hiring my entry-level positions, is to see how the pathway interns perform and to make sure that if we get really good interns, there's a pathway for them into the department.
Is this on a, is this consolidated on a NIFA job site or anything like that? Or what would be the best way for, you know, say one of these PhDs? All
USDA jobs are posted on usajobs.com. And so you can actually go in and create a profile for yourself, and you can say, I'm looking for jobs at USDA NIFA in communication or biological science, whatever your area is, and it will send you an email every time a job is posted. So that way you're not even having to go back and constantly check.
Right. Okay. I have a question. Is the newsletter going to return? It was either called Down on the Farm or Fresh from the Farm.
Fresh from the field.
I'm sorry. Is that an ongoing enterprise, or is that continuing? Is that?
It's on hold right now. So I think something like that will continue. I don't know that it will be that exact format or that exact publication, but something similar will continue once we get staff hired.
Great.
So one of the positions we're hiring is external communication manager / science writer. So I envision that person will be the one who manages most of whatever our public facing publication is going to be. So I'm trying not to be too prescriptive and let that person get hired and have some input into where we should go with that publication.
So
Faith, this is, oh, sorry.
hearing now about when all of you are going back to the building and are going to be free to travel about the country.
We are awaiting further guidance on that. We don't know yet.
If assuming we someday get back to normal, what is the best way for us to, you and other top administrators, to visit our schools?
Well, so every state will have a NIFA liaison assigned. So if there's a particular program that you're doing and the liaison is coming, or there are other people from NIFA that you want on a program or to come for a visit, you just work that through your liaison. You can also, if it's something that you want from communication, you can work directly with me. Several of your institutions have already had some one-on-ones with me to talk about communication and how we can work together to try to elevate the profile of the work that you're doing and your stories that you're producing. I've also done a couple of impact writing workshops. I have one coming up shortly with Virginia Tech. And so those are things that you can just send me an email and request. We're trying to eliminate as much red tape and bureaucracy as we can while still being able to keep track of things. And so please just feel free to drop me an email. Let me know what you need and we'll figure out the best way to do it.
Hey, Faith, this is Chris Brandon at Oregon State. I had a question. It's going to be too long in the chat, so I'm just going to do it the old-fashioned way and ask it in person.
Okay.
It comes to social, and so I do Twitter for OSU Extension, Oregon State Extension. And my question is about that NIFA impacts hashtag and also tagging with the handle, the USDA NIFA. When it comes to, are you going to have sort of maybe like a policy of what you retweet and like? Because I've gone back through the last week of everything that's been tagged with, included the NIFA impacts hashtag. And it seems a little haphazard as to what NIFA has retweeted and what it has liked. I guess I'm asking is because we want to make sure that is it going to be a policy of like, if you include the NIFA impacts hashtag, it will get a retweet and like from NIFA? I just don't want it to seem like certain universities are getting favoritism over others.
Yeah, so let me see how well I can answer this question for you. Right now, it is kind of haphazard at the moment. We are trying to get our meltwater account back up and running. So we are having to monitor using manual tools. You know, what we see is what we like and retweet. So if you have one that's really important and we miss it, please let me know. But we hope to have meltwater back up and running by the end of next week, so that we're doing a better job of being able to find all of your tweets. And we also are hiring a digital communication specialist who will be dedicated full time to monitoring and responding on social media. So right now, what we have at NIFA is an internal communication specialist, a web manager, and an external communication specialist. That's it. That's all we have. So we're really at bare bones right now. And so we're trying to do the best we can. We just ask that you be patient. We're not picking and choosing institutions. We're retweeting and liking and sharing what we see. So if there are things that you really want us to want to call our attention to, please send it to me in an email and we will find it and share it for you. But we're doing the best we can right now. Hopefully in the next couple of weeks, we're going to have more hands on board.
Got it. Thank you. I really appreciate it.
Thanks.
their movement on after is Dr. Fitness going to be permanent, or what's the
I missed part of that, Chris. Can you repeat that one?
for the director? Is Dr. Chitness still interim, or is he a permanent gig, or what?
So the director of NIFA is a presidential appointee. So Dr. Chitness is still the acting director until a presidential appointee is selected.
Okay. I guess the other presidential appointees are ahead of him in line.
Yeah, there are a few that seem to be a little more important, like chief justices or justices of the Supreme Court.
Can you talk about, post November 3rd, what you expect one way or the other? Do you expect change? Do you expect it to not affect your life too much one way or the other, or how does that look from the inside?
Well, I only know what people tell me because I'm new to federal government. But after every election, there's always a lot of change going on and a lot of movement within the executive branch of the federal government. So it usually takes, according to what my friends tell me, it takes a few weeks for things to settle down and people to get back in gear, regardless of the outcome of the election. So there's always a little bit of a pause in production right around the election, and then things pick up and move right ahead.
And does USDA, I guess I would assume that would happen on the cabinet level. If should there be a new administration, do you get to brief a transition team on agriculture?
I would imagine that would be the chief of staff would be in charge of that. We're very fortunate at NIFA to have Bill Hoffman, who knows everything there is to know about NIFA and most of you. So I first met Bill, I won't divulge how many years ago, a few years ago. Neither one of us had gray hair back then, at an Eden meeting, and he was the CSRES liaison to Eden. So he's worked very closely with a lot of land grant faculty members and especially communicators. So we're very fortunate to have Bill. He's a huge asset for NIFA and for you guys, because he really has the land grant universities and all of our university partners at heart. And he's very careful in looking out for your best interest.
Yeah, I'll second that. Bill actually came down to Gainesville last year with then Director Engel for a couple days visit, and he really helped with, telling us what kind of itinerary the director was interested in and shepherding him around to the right places at the right time. So yeah, Bill is great. I'm glad to hear he continues to be involved. So we got a couple of questions while we were speaking. So have you, from Debbie Carter, Faith, have you moved to Kansas City?
No, no, because we're still full-time telecommuting. It didn't make sense for me to move and sit in an apartment in Kansas City when I can sit in my house. So I'm still in Georgia and waiting to find out when we go to Kansas City. When our building does reopen, we move to our new building on November 1st. And when the new building does start to open up for employees to come back to work, we will move back in waves. So I'll get a little bit of a heads up to throw my totes in the Prius and head to Kansas City. I'm still on the Eastern time zone. So that's a plus and a minus. That means that I get to start an hour earlier and work an hour later. So feel free to contact me at any time in that time frame. So
Great. Well, that semi answers the next question from Brian, whether you have purchased your Midwest winter coat and mittens yet.
I did, and it's all packed up. I was so excited about going. I went and bought a winter coat in June, and it's just mocking me now from the corner of my room.
Well, I can say as we've talked about before, my in-laws live probably a few hundred yards from you, and I've been to your little hometown, and it can get pretty darn cold there too.
Yes. Yeah, it's amazing. There are 350 people in the town I live in, and they include Chris's in-law. So.
And everyone orients themselves in town by their relationship to a barrel.
Yes. We don't have stop signs or red lights. We have a traffic barrel in the middle of the road. Hello there.
Well, I am hearing nothing but a trumpet. I don't see other questions right now. And I've sort of run out of them myself. Is there anyone else that would like to ask Faith? Now's your chance. Although she makes herself seemingly available all the time, and that's why ACE keeps going to her for her expertise and her experience and her really deep understanding of how agricultural communications work nationwide. So there's a lot of there's a lot of well wishes in the chat box, and they are wanting to know, what bet you're placing. And
one of the things I do want to make sure that you all do is as you have ideas of anything we can do that's going to be helpful to you, anything that's going to make your jobs easier, things that you would like to see us elevate or highlight, please do email them to me. And if you have emails from me, the phone number in my signature is my cell phone number. So keep that cell phone number and feel free to use it anytime.
Excellent. Well, I know a number of us will and have taken you up on that. Just so much for being so generous with your time and your insights. It's always worth spending time with you. And I can see, I mean, for an ACE webinar, we've got a pretty full room here. People realize what an asset you are to our organization, and we're glad to see you at NIFA.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that, Chris. And if there's anything I can do to help you with your bosses, let me know, because I'm usually in those meetings with the dean. So if there's anything I can do that's going to help them provide you with more resources or more support or more access, please let me know.
All right. And before we sign off, Kay Ledbetter says, Faith, say hi to Frankie.
I will.
All right. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Thanks, guys. Have a good weekend.
You too.
Bye-bye.